This 1867 Constitution, by the way, is the Constitution under which Maryland still operates as of the year 2025. It's been amended hundreds and hundreds, maybe even a couple thousand times by this point, but it's the same Constitution. If you were alive in 1867, I think that prospect would have seemed really unlikely. Remember, Maryland had made a constitution in 1851, another one in 1864, and now this one in 1867. So that's 3 constitutions, if you were a teenager, that happened while you were alive. So the idea that this one would then last for 150 years or more would be surprising. The first governor under this new constitution has a little bit of a backstory that I wanted to spend just a moment on. That governor is Odin Bowie. And before becoming governor, Bowie and his brothers, they lived out in Prince George's County, and they were wealthy, successful, and were looking to build a new rail line through part of PG County. And so, who's the big player in the state? It's the B&O. So Bowie went and met with John Garrett, the longtime president of the B&O, who you met before, and basically he can't talk Garrett into this new rail line that Bowie wants. So, instead of taking no for an answer, Bowie went and met with the head of the Pennsylvania Railroad and talked him into establishing a new railroad line that wouldn't be under B&O control at all. That line, which Bowie was instigating, then got a huge level of government support once Bowie became the new governor. Odin Bowie became the first governor under the new constitution, and now that railroad got approval. If you're wondering if the town is named after him, yes, that town was named Huntington. It was the town where the Bowies had established a lot of their wealth, and the town got renamed Bowie in 1880 after the guy from the town had been the governor. But at this point, it was Huntington. So Bowie is your new governor, and so much of the focus of the Maryland politics in this period is about race. And based on what I've learned, I gotta tell you that it seems to me that Bowie is like a run-of-the-mill white supremacist who's more concerned about getting his railroad line built. He did support a bill in Maryland's education that would have included the word equal in the establishment of public schools for white and black students. That wound up not making it into the final bill. He's most noted for this maneuvering that broke the B&O's monopoly on railroad lines in Maryland, letting in competition. While he was governor, at the federal level, Congress passed the 15th Amendment to the Constitution. The 14th Amendment had become official when ratified by those new state governments in the South in 1868. And as I mentioned before, Ku Klux Klan and other terrorist violence across the South attacked Republican voters. The 15th Amendment was designed to strengthen black men's ability to vote and to make it nationwide. Because remember, black men in Maryland couldn't vote under the Reconstruction Act. In fact, neither could black men in several states further north. So while the 14th Amendment and the Reconstruction Act had been used to force southern states to accept black men as voters, many northern states refused to do the same thing. I don't know what you might call someone like that, but at the time, lots of white Southerners called them hypocrites. Hypocrite. The 15th Amendment was passed by Congress 1869 and then ratified by the states by 1870. It's one powerful sentence followed by a sentence about enforcement. Here's the sentence, and think of the effect this is going to have on Maryland. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged. Abridged means limited. So if you just let me replace that then. The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or limited by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. All right, make sure you get this. It's going to be critical for the way we see this political maneuvering play out in Maryland. If I paraphrase then, the state can't stop citizens from voting because of the three reasons listed here: race, color, previous condition of servitude. Maryland, like lots of other states, had the word white right there in the law. And that is what you can't do anymore. Right? That state can't limit citizens' ability to vote because of their race, so you can't limit it to white people. So once ratified, the 15th Amendment is what delivered the right to vote to black Marylanders. Remember, black people in the 11 states of the Confederacy were already voting, as they also were in some northern states like Massachusetts and Pennsylvania, and the North was like a little more than 50-50 on this issue. So the next clause of the 15th Amendment says that Congress has the ability to enforce the amendment. Maryland rejected the 15th Amendment. Rejected it. But did ratify it later. You know, in 1973. That's right. This amendment from 155 years ago was ratified by Maryland once your professor was alive. 1973. That's a long time to get to, you know what? Okay, we're okay with this. But here in Reconstruction, Maryland rejected the amendment. Now, remember the way the Constitution works? Once an amendment is ratified by 3/4 of the states, the amendment applies in the whole country. It doesn't matter whether your state ratified it or not. It applies to every state. So, here in Maryland, black Marylanders recognized the incredible historical significance of what had just happened. And this scene that you're looking at here is a collection of images of black people as part of the United States. political leaders in the South who had served as slaves and as soldiers during the war. It includes white allies like John Brown and Abraham Lincoln. It shows black people trying to get education, formalize their marriages. And the scene in the center of this is a scene from Baltimore, Maryland, where after the 15th Amendment was ratified, 20,000 black Baltimoreans, black Marylanders, black people, because remember, Baltimore at this point was filled with black people who had come from Virginia and even further south. So let's say 20,000 black people in Baltimore marched, claiming the city as theirs too. The newspaper account over here is from the Baltimore American, a Republican newspaper. And this one's from the Sun. And this is the only photograph that exists of that day. Even in its aged quality, I find it very moving. People who were enslaved, who were prohibited by black codes, now in the streets together celebrating the 15th Amendment and the prospect that they're going to become full Americans. Frederick Douglass was there that day and delivered a speech that the crowd really enjoyed. I've included it here in full, even though we don't have time for it. But like so much else in these PowerPoints, it's a lot of great historical resources for you nerds out there. So pause it and read Frederick Douglass's speech. Just this one part. He says, the 15th Amendment means that hereafter, the black man is to have no excuse for ignorance, poverty, or destitution. Our excuse for such things is swept away from us by the 15th Amendment. We are to stand up and be responsible for our own existence. We must be independent men and citizens. We are to know our friends and equally to know our enemies. He's saying the ability to vote puts our destiny in our own hands. Now we'll have to check back in with Frederick Douglass about what it might mean if, in the future, black men lose this right to vote. In 1872, the General Assembly passed a public schools law that formalized the establishment of separate black schools throughout the state. So having resisted this for decades, the state finally formalizes a system that brings black children into an unequal and separate public school system. Also, the same year, I don't have a slide for it, I couldn't find any great images that worked, but in 1872, the General Assembly passed a law that limited the law profession to white lawyers. Black lawyers were prohibited from practicing law in Maryland. That is a real kick in the ribs. So the legal system is now going to apply to you, but you and people like you are never going to have access to the functionality of the law that comes with, having a skilled lawyer in your corner. Trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Oh, for the last time, a new county. Garrett County, named for John Work Garrett of the B&O, is established by the General Assembly 1872. And I think this is the last time I tell you about a new county. There are in the future some little adjustments in some county lines, but no new counties created. So next, we're going to get to these two, the people, I guess.